Hi, everybody. Welcome along to episode 132 of Percussion Discussion. Please check out all of our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and of course, our world famous YouTube channel, where you can find all of our conversations, past and present. Here you will find the video to accompany all of the conversations too. If you wouldn't mind subscribing, that really helps us find new listeners and watchers. Yeah, you won't find any adverts on our YouTube channel, so don't worry about that. There'll be nothing to get in the way of the chat. If you'd rather listen on the go, then this is no problem. You'll find all of our conversations are available in podcast form. These are free to download from your favorite podcast providers. So if you wouldn't mind, please rating and reviewing us as well. If you can find a couple of minutes to do that. Again, really, really appreciate it, and it helps us. On to today's guest. Genuinely one of the nicest guys in the business. Since the 90s, he has been the drummer with indie rockers Embrace. They've had many, many hits, many great albums, and performed countless tours, festivals, and you name it, they've done it. Still going to this day, going strong, which is great to see. But as drumming aside, he's actually the brains, the main man behind Code Drumheads. So we have a great chat about music, drumming, and of course, Code Drumheads. It gives me incredible pleasure to welcome the wonderful man that is Mike Heaton.
Absolute pleasure, Matty. Really good to do it.
Oh, it's good to see you, mate. It's good to see you. And it's a great background, and I'm noticing a Premiere Project One there in the background. I think that's the black port that I can see there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the one there. Finger pointed at. Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah. I've got one of those and an 8-inch deep black Project One. I mean, I've got a lot of Premiere drums. There's a hammered brass one down here. You can't see because I collect snare drums. That's kind of what I like to do. Because I was with Premiere for from 99 for about 14 years, 15 years. Yeah. I was with Premiere, so I picked up quite a few of their drums and the Gen X kit in the background at the other end of the room.
Yeah.
So you got the Gen X. So that's kind of my past. And this fella obviously is the British Drum Company.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll get round to talking about that one. So, throughout your career, you've played amazing drums. I know different brands and things come and go, and you change, but you can't knock any of them, can you? Let's be honest.
Oh no, you can't. You can't. I mean, I started with Pearl, courtesy of George Frederick, obviously. Yeah. And he got me a couple of amazing kits. The Masterworks ones, which were absolutely superb. So so many great drums out there.
But it's interesting. I mean, the snare drum thing. Do you have like a massive collection of them?
No, not. I've got about 35. So it's
not to be sniffed at, though, is it? You know.
No, it's not. It's not. But I've been playing a long time as well. So
are you actively collecting, or do you just see one and go, I like that, I'm going to buy that? Or is there things that you're like gems that you're searching for?
Yeah, I'm not an active collector. If I see something and I like the look of it, then I'll pick it up. But I think one of the problems at the moment nowadays is that everyone knows the value of drums. Yeah. You know, so it's very hard to pick up like a Radio King or something. You know, a decent price. Sure. So I just kind of keep my eye out. And that's what I've got on my eBay. Every time a Radio King comes up, it comes up, but every time it's like, a lot of money.
Top price. I mean, there's no. I think the days of getting deals, are done now on drums. Yeah. It's too easy to find out a value, isn't it? So
yeah, completely. But so if one pops up, then I'll get it. But if not, yeah, I've got enough already.
So is the Radio King quite high up on the list? Then would you say?
Yeah, it's one of the ones that I've never had. And I know, when we did the education thing with Steve White, I know he's got quite a collection of Radio Kings.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He's got a load of them, but I've never had one. And I've got a Dynasonic, Roger's Dynasonic that's still incomplete that I need to put back together again, and because they're really nice drums as well. So
you know what, I'm looking down here on my left hand side. And I'm looking at Dynasonic that's in bits as well. I've got, but it's the big R one. I've got the 70s one, and I have to say, and I'm not going to make any friends doing this. It sounds like a bin. It really does. It's horrible. I don't know why it's so bad. but it is. So there we go.
Yeah, it's weird. So the one I've got is I think it's an earlier one. It's before the big R, with the three. Is it 3 lines around it or whatever? I can't remember.
3 or 5? I can't remember. Yeah,
3 or 5. Yeah. But it sounds great. But somebody just put a standard snare on it. So I need the rail, and I've got the rail, but I haven't got all the fixings. Anyway, but
there we go.
Great drums.
Well, I've got a few snare drums, but you can probably see behind me what I collect vintage pedals. I've got a fascination with them. They're easier to store. Now, those you can buy pretty cheaply. Somebody selling a job lot, they'll say, oh, there's some 5 pedals and there's an old hi-hat. 30 quid, is that all right? And it's like, oh, yeah, some old Ludwigs in there and stuff. So it's, well,
I must admit, a few years ago, I picked up which I can see behind you, I think, a Premier 252.
Indeed, you can, yes.
Because that was my first sort of pro level pedal that I bought back in whenever it was in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And then I didn't have one. In fact, I swapped it for an Ibanez bass guitar, actually.
As you do.
With with a bass player or drummer from a band called Ship of Fools, going back ages. And I didn't have one for years. So I thought, I know, I need to buy one. And I bought one the other year. And as soon as I put it on the kit, I thought, this is really short.
Yes.
The foot plate just felt really, really short on it. Bizarre.
Yeah. But a nice pedal, nice action on them. But what I used to find was, if you didn't have the hi-hat stand to match, you were kind of, because it's quite a chunky affair, isn't it?
Yes, high up.
You know what I mean? It's quite your foot's high up.
You feel like you're wearing platform boots playing it.
Yeah, and if you don't have the hi-hat to match, you're kind of sitting a bit of a funny angle.
Yeah, but again, going back to the Premier thing, innovation in design.
Oh, absolutely. They've sold a few of those. That's great pedals. But I just like, I don't know, they're easy to store, they're cheap, and they kind of look a bit different, don't they, in the background? So that's and I've got quite a nice one over there. I've got a Dynasonic that was it was Clem Catini's that he used throughout the 60s. So that's Clem kindly sold me that one, so that's a nice little bit of history behind that one. So,
right, that's fantastic,
and a great pedal as well. Not a Dynasonic, not a Dynasonic. That's the snare drum. What's the pedal called? Rogers.
What the
Swivomatic, not a Dynasonic.
That's it. That's
Rogers mixed up. There we go.
Yeah,
easily done. So, anyway, what are you up to at the moment, Mike? Anything interesting?
At the moment, there's a lot of code action at the moment on the drumhead side of things, because we've just come back from NAMM, trade fair over there, and signed up some new distribution worldwide for various areas that I can't go into yet because they're just about to be signed and sealed. But for us was really positive. Went over there with Keith Keogh, and we met a lot of interesting people. And even though, as we were saying before we started recording, it was a bit quieter than normal. It was there was still a lot of people there just to meet up, which was nice. And we got to we had a little meeting with Jared Falk as well from Drumeo. So I had a chat with him, which was really nice fella. Really interesting hearing about what they're doing now, and how big they've grown. 150 staff.
Wow, seriously?
100, he said 150 staff now. Insane.
I mean, what they've done is nothing short of remarkable. I mean, I know lots of people have done the online education, but talk about taking it a step further. Well, 10 steps further, it's incredible.
I mean, they've cleared the floor with it. I mean, we had a go with a friend of mine, Rich Wilson, and with Steve White, and we set something up, but just impossible to get anywhere, and especially through COVID did have a really detrimental effect because everyone went online, didn't they? Everyone was an online teacher during COVID. Every professional drummer, every touring drummer, put their content out there. So you can find anything you want, but Drumeo have just been able to put the money in to take it to that next level and get people like Chad involved. And, it's a great thing. I got my first, I was saying to him, the CD booklet thing from him probably over 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And he said he's been going 20 years now. And I said, well, it probably would have been about, 17 or 18, the drumming theory, or I can't remember what it was called. But I got one of his first things. So it's been nice to see his sort of trajectory
Oh, it's kind
Go
of
all the
next
way.
level. You get names like Chad involved, you know, and Todd Sukerman,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Todd.
it's, you know, it's bonkers, isn't it? Absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
So well, that's good. That's good. So it's more code side than actual playing side at the moment, I guess.
Yeah, more that. Still the teaching. You know, I've still got. I always keep a small number of private students, just because I like to keep my hand in with the teaching side of things. You know, I've got obviously I've got two kits. You can see that kit and that kit,
Sure.
And everything's fully mic'd up to Pro Tools, which is on the Mac over there. You know, because I record in the studio as well. I record bands. I do quite a lot of work with sort of local bands that are just starting out, and they'll come in, and I do really good rates, so they can come in. And because I've learned so much about recording over the years, you know, they'll come out with something that sounds really good.
Yeah.
And it's great. I love recording. I love mixing. You know, I'd do a lot more of it if I had the time. But yeah, this is my sort of little man cave with everything I need in here. Got my bass over there, because I tend, when I'm teaching students, what I really focus on is being part of a band.
Yeah.
So I don't teach grades, but when I'm teaching them grooves and fills, as soon as we've worked on something, I'll put the bass on. It goes through a couple of cabs over there. Yeah. So you've got the Royal Blood type sound with the pitch shift top and bottom, a load of fuzz on it, and we just jam along, you know. And for some of the kids, it's like, yeah, so this is your first band. You know, this is what you need to learn to do, because when you get in a band, no one's going to give you loads of dots to read.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're just going to play a riff and go, do what you want.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because my well, speaking of Premier, my first proper teacher when I was about probably, I'm self-taught till I was 19, I think, and I went to Steve Washington for about 2 or 3 years. Do you remember Steve?
Name rings a bell.
Steve at the time was playing for Take That at the first time round, and
right,
Texas, and big Premier endorsee. And Steve would do the same. He would like, well, let's learn a groove. And a very, very accomplished bass player. And I used to love it. And he'd often say, are you a bit bored of this? And I would never say yes. Let's keep going, you know. He'd be like, well, what style do you want to do? Let's do some reggae today. Let's do a one drop.
Yeah.
Cool. You know, and I'd be good if it ended. So it's really nice that you're doing that kind of thing. Because I think you don't often realize how much the kids enjoy it. I don't mean kids, but students in general enjoy it, you know.
Absolutely, and the thing that I've learned from it is, and I say this to my students, if we start playing a groove and I'm playing along the bass, I'll say to them, you know, I can tell you're getting better because it's easier for me to play with you. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because as soon as you're playing a riff and you can just get into the groove and lock in, it means that they're locking in with you as well. So you know that it's working basically. Whereas sometimes you know, we've all got students that, you know, will never be amazing, but you know, some people that have had for years coming in, they just want to sit and play and just, you know,
absolutely.
They don't want to do grades, they just want to sit and jam for a bit. And it's like, yeah, I can do that. And some kids have come in and I've taught them how to record. You know, they started on the drums and they said, oh, how do you record the drums? So I'll go, oh, okay, well, you know, do you want to do some lessons on Pro Tools? And I'll teach you how to do basic recording. Because for me, that's what saved me a fortune and the whole band. You know, we record our albums down in our own studios. Yeah. You know, no one else gets involved. Rick, our guitarist, he produces the albums, and we record the parts in whoever's studio.
Wow, okay.
Mainly Rick's studio, but we've all got our little setups.
Well, that's invaluable though. Getting recording advice, because I mean, I can record basically. But I'll be honest, it's not very good, and I don't really know what I'm doing. I blag it big time. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I live sound. I'm all right with recorded sound. I'm like, I don't know if that sounds right or not, but we'll just see what happens. You know. But the fact that you're there and able to guide them is, I think, it's brilliant.
But I never had any lessons. You know, and I'm the same as you. I just play about with plugins until it sounds good, and I always bring up, you know, the saying that because a guy called Youth produced 2 of our albums and the first couple of singles, and his saying was always, when you're saying, well, I don't know how to do this, he says, hey, fake it till you make it.
True, isn't
and
it?
that was it was like, yeah, fair enough then. And another saying that that Rick, our guitarist, actually said to me when I was thinking about when I started doing some talks in music colleges and things about drumming and the industry, and he said, "Look, Mike," he said, "jump, and the net will appear." It's like, basically saying, just give it a go.
I like that.
If it doesn't work out, don't do it again.
No, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
It is one of those things. I mean, and recording these days, 20 years ago, you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to remortgage the house. Well, obviously not unless you're a 15-year-old kid, you're not going to do that. But everything was out of reach. These days, it's not, is it? You can get an interface, you can get free software if you need to. And a set of mics, you're spending about 500 or 600 quid, aren't you? Rather than thousands and thousands these days. So,
and the unfortunately for us, the expensive part is recording the kit. Really getting the some half decent mics for the kit. But as you say, people like Audix, have these great little packs of kits. And I mean, even Audix are sort of higher end now. Mm-hmm. As you say, you can start with 200 or 300 quid. You can have something that's half decent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you kind of get geeky with the studio gear, or are you kind of like, well, it's a good level and that's what I need, or do you get into preamps and all sorts of different stuff?
I've kind of built stuff up. I mean, I had a really good deal with Audient on the preamp side of things, who make amazingly clean, just great mic preamps. So I've got an Audient AS880, which is an 8-channel preamp, and that goes into I've just bought it, which is an Apollo X4, which is the universal audio. Because I wanted to be able to put effects on the inserts on the way in to affect it, because when I just had the audience, they were just going completely clean. But with now universal audio stuff, I mean, some of the plugins, and they get you right, because you'll get an email a day saying there's a new offer for a new plugin, and they just price them just at the sort of, well, I can't really afford not to get that one because it's so good. But they're amazing. Capital Chambers, I think, was the one of the latest, and the there was another one as well. Ocean Studios,
Reverbs, I'm guessing, yeah.
Yeah, Reverbs, just absolutely amazing.
But you get what you pay for, don't you? It's all very well talking about the budget stuff, but when it comes to stuff like that, it's
you are paying a bit extra. But I mean, I use it for my business, so it works out okay.
Absolutely. And what kind of age ranges are you teaching? All sorts, from youngsters to older guys or girls, or
I mean, I have taught as young as 7 or 8 years old, and so they tend to sort of split into two camps: the younger players, who are sort of that sort of age up to teenagers, and then quite a few older players who just want to come in and, like I said before, just sort of play and learn a bit extra. Never have any intention of being in a band or anything like that, but just like coming in, jamming and learning a few ideas. A lot of people will come in and just say, can we look at this song today? Can we look at AC/DC, or can we look at Rush, or can we look at whatever? And I always find, regardless of how simple you think the song is, you always find there's something more about it. You'll go.
There's
you go. So I find that fascinating. Breaking songs down. And on the 2 weeks running up to Christmas, I decided to get all the Christmas tunes out. So I slayed and everything. And then you suddenly realise how many Christmas songs are based around a shuffle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is for me one of the hardest things to do. Don't know why. I struggle with the shuffle.
To do it accurately and in a nice style. It's never ending, the shuffle stuff, isn't it? There's so many different things. That's interesting. I mean, are you into the likes of Rush and stuff like that? Do you get it? Are you? Because, and I mean this in the nicest possible way I could ever mean. You are the ultimate song drummer for me. If it doesn't need a fill, it's not getting the fill. It's you're the kind of Phil Rudd of indie rock.
Yeah. Which, God, I would never take that as an insult. Jesus.
You know where I'm going. I mean,
Yeah.
I hate to pick on an obvious song, but Gravity. I don't think there's a fill in there, is there? Not that I can think of.
There is.
Is there? Must be a
But
subtle
it's
one.
and a
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah.
Floor tom towards the end. It's just live. There's a couple more fills in there.
Well,
because when we recorded that, I was so because the original version of it had a different drum beat on it. The digital version had more of a Bonham beat on it. So the original version was whereas now it's just like dum dum cat. When we first started going, it was cat, dum dum cat, cat, dum, and it had that sort of.
Can't imagine it with that.
Well, yeah, and then as soon as we got in the studio with Youth again, with his production simple genius, he just said straighten it out.
Yeah,
and I'm like that, this, just really simple, and they're going, yeah. I'm going, oh shit, it works.
It's one of those things, right? It's a simple part, but fiendishly difficult to pull it off and make it sound. Yeah. It adds like a tension. I think when you're waiting for something more and it never happens, and I love it. That's playing a song, isn't it? Let's be honest.
That's what I kind of learned. That was my big learning curve when Embrace became what we were. Because prior to Embrace, because I grew up on rock and punk, that was which still is my main love, really. And then I played in like a sort of Chili Peppers-esque band called Big Spread, with a French singer, and then joined Embrace after that. And even for the first 2 years of Embrace's history, we were very much like a gothy. We were very gothy. Loads of fills everywhere. I mean, some of the early demos, you should hear them. It's just all over the place. It's like, But then we found this sound with a song called Retread, and stripped it right down. And then that became the sort of template for everything else that followed. And I rebelled against it for a while, because it was so simple.
Sure.
But then you learn that, that becomes the foundation of a great song. And as we all know, if you don't get the foundations right, then the rest of it is faltering. So I learned just to love doing that. And sometimes drummers will say, yeah, but don't you want to do something far more complicated live? I might add a bit to it live, but a lot of the time I just get off on the size of the thing and the power, because it's just great, and I don't have to concentrate that hard.
It's the space for everything else as well, even effects on other instruments that you're hearing that are allowed to come through, because you're not playing whatever, sort of tearing that. It's such a nice thing, honestly, and it's something these days that gets a little bit lost on people. I think all the videos on Instagram and Facebook of people just don't get me wrong, I'd love to be able to do that, and I can't. I admit I can't, but I don't need it. So it's like, but I think it's a lost art, just playing a song like you did on Gravity, for example.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and again, I'll keep referring back to Youth as a producer, because he's produced our most successful work, and he had these great, he when he started working with us, he said, I see you as a stadium band, and he said, and because I see you in big venues, when you're doing your fills, you want to do fills that every man can understand. And so if you're at the back of a big hall for a massive PA and you go ba down da down down down, it doesn't matter if you're a drummer or not, it gets you in the chest,
of course,
and people feel that power. Whereas if you're going really fast down the kit, it becomes just a noise, and people who aren't drummers don't get it. Whereas they get that bam bam bam, that real solid sort of feeling. So that's kind of what we went for. And that was on our Out of Nothing album that he was really drilling that into me, which this year we're playing all year because it's the 20th anniversary of that album. So,
okay. Brilliant.
we're going back. We're going back over and doing that, which obviously has got Gravity and Ashes and all the other big tunes.
Fantastic. Oh well, hopefully I'll catch one of those shows because it's
come
happening
down.
a lot with the likes of Big Country are doing. You know, is it the Crossing? I can't remember which album it is, but so lots of bands are revisiting certain eras, and I think that's great. Keeps it alive. And tell me, Mike, did it? You know, when you kind of stripped back your approach, did it change the equipment that you were using as well? Did you kind of simplify stuff, or were you did that not change much?
Yeah, it did, but I'd sort of semi-simplified already. I mean, because when I first started out, I wanted to be, I wanted to be Nicko. I wanted to have the drums all the way around. And my first APK kit had, an 8 and a 10, and then I can't remember, 12, 13, 16, which felt like loads as a kid.
Yeah.
And I used that for a long time, having the 4 toms up front and 1 or 2 floor toms. But then I got I was lucky enough to. I was going to phrase that completely wrong then. Basically, when one of my grandparents died, left me some money. I was going to say I was lucky enough that my grandma died, but
I'm glad you rephrased it.
And I got my first sort of serious kit, which was a Yamaha 9000 recording, a black recording kit.
Yeah,
2 up, 1 down, and I got a rack.
Of course.
I got the square rack.
Yeah,
and I had that when I joined Embrace, and well, it's the first rehearsal that I ever went to with Danny and Rick, different bass player at the time, and I turned up. I can't remember if I had long hair or not, but I had stripy trousers on or something, and then I set up with a rack, and I could see them looking at it, thinking, "Oh, I'm not sure about that." And then I had a China cymbal.
Oh.
And they were like, "You can put that away."
like Alex Van Halen turning up with a stripy keck.
yeah, I was. It was something like that, something mad. But then I pared it down to basically, I mean, because Bottom's my hero, just like a million one other drummers. So I just had, the rack, 2 floors. And I had that for the first few years with Embrace touring. And then I just found that I wasn't using the 18 floor tom that much. So I just got rid of it and just thought, right, I'll just basically focus on the 4-piece and sort of make me focus on the drums that I do have. For about the past 10, 12 years, I've just been using the 4-piece kit, nice and simple.
I'm the same. I just find it's, you've got to think about being creative sometimes a little bit. You can't just fly around a million toms and hope you land on the one. Nice, because obviously, with your snare drum, you've got an odd amount of drums to get round the fill with there, haven't you? Almost, and I like that. I like sort of being made to think about it a little bit.
Yeah, well, you find you'll know you find that when you're teaching, because obviously you've got the 3, haven't you, rather than the 4. So you've always got to do that, because obviously you break things into the 4s, don't you, for fills and stuff, and it's always like snare, rack, floor, snare, and then snare, starting on the snare again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does make you think. Yeah, I'm only small, so I don't need too many drums.
Well,
I can't.
I'm not tall, but I am lazy, so I think that's possibly got something to do with it. It'll be 2 toms, 2 cymbals. That's me lot.
Well, that's exactly what I've got. 2 crashes.
Yeah,
and that a ride or whatever. And I moved recently to some longer sticks, which helped a lot as well. So it's the old 3As.
I love longer sticks as well. And I've tried a few things at the UK Drum Show, and I found a pair. I was like, this is actually really nice and cheaper than your big names. So I was like, yeah, these are doing the job nicely. So anyway, look, speaking of drums, obviously let's talk BDC. I've seen you at the factory many times. It's no secret that you endorse them, and it's also no secret that I do a little bit of their interviewing as well, where we've spoken before.
Absolutely.
Great drums.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I first met Keith at Music China in 2016 when I was still with Premiere. But, obviously Premiere were sort of, going in the wrong direction at the time. And I just went over and we had a chat on the stand, and he just said literally had 2 drum kits there. And I think two kits and 2 snares.
Yeah.
And I just thought these look fantastic. I love the, the lugs and the design, the Palladium design. Thought it was really classy. And then when we had a couple of good nights out, so I sort of got to know Keith pretty well through a handful of beers.
Yes.
And when I got back, we carried on chatting, and he said, "Look, do you want to play BDC?" And Premiere had, sadly, gone by the wayside there, I think, and lost the focus. I don't think anyone from Premiere would mind me saying that.
Like common knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah. So when he said, "Do you want to try the drums?" I went, yeah. Snare drum wise, I've always been a big fan of the Black Beauty.
Yeah.
So when I tried the, I don't know where it is.
Lost your Bluebird,
obviously. He lost the Bluebird. I thought it was on the kit, but it's not. Shit. Hide that.
Yeah, we won't say what that is.
But when I got the Bluebird, I know why. It's in the flight cases for the touring stuff. Yeah, I just loved it. And then he luckily gave me a Legend kit, 24, 13, 16. And I just love the sound of it, and the way they're made, and the whole ethos behind the company. Keith is a genius. He's designed everything they've got out there, and it just looks, well, as they're saying it is, what is it? Look amazing, sound amazing, feel amazing, whatever it is. The tagline. It's true, and the great drums. This is a lounge kit again that he let me have, which I'm probably going to use on the tours this year.
Yeah, because you went back and used the other one, didn't you, last year?
I did, yeah. I was going to use this one.
You were, I know you were like that about the bass drum size and different things, weren't you? You were.
Well, do you know what? In the end, it came to an aesthetic thing, because basically what happened was that drum kit that's the bigger size, the Legend kit, was a hand painted one by a friend of mine, which tied in with the artwork for the 25th anniversary version of our first album. So last year when we were out doing the 25th anniversary, we had this massive backdrop done, which was the reimagining of the first album cover, but done in a very colourful way. So that kit just sat beautifully with that.
Sense. Yeah, of course.
But then when I got this kit, I'd gone down to a 22 bass drum, 12 rack, still 16 floor, and the 22 bass drum, the Lounge 22, it sounds bigger than the 24 Legend.
That's mad, isn't it?
It's got that wallop, and I think it's because it's a mixture of birch and, I'm going to say, mahogany.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it's mahogany.
I've got a Lounge behind me, and I should know, but I think it is. I think you're right.
It just sounds really full, so I can't wait to get that out on the road.
And do you have I mean, I love the Legend stuff, but Lounge stuff just draws me in, and part the sound. I love the sound. I love the vintage warmth from it. But the lugs, I love the single lug. I vintagey look that I think it's fabulous. Yeah. So it's nice that you've got both, and you can choose and what have you. But yeah, I'm a fan of them. I'm just a huge fan of them. I think they're amazing. But you can't see much.
Yeah.
But it is there. But that one piece lug.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, amazing. Quality stuff.
Yeah, it works really well, and I mean, Keith knows that. Well, like any drummer does, you use different snare drums as well. When you, so that I was recording a band the other day, and that's why we've got this is a 402, which is a 1977 402. The olive badge one, which I found in a studio in Huddersfield years ago in the attic in bits, and put it together. And it's not round. but it sounds incredible. I've got one of the most over-engineered bits of dampening on here that you've ever seen. That fella.
Oh my!
Did you have one of those?
Oh my God! I haven't seen one of those for a long time. That really is over-engineered, isn't it? Wow! What make? What
it
make,
really works.
What make was it? I can't remember what it was.
I can't remember that. I think they make heads as well.
Oh, well, yeah, I haven't seen one for a long time. Does the job?
Yeah, it's Remo. It's great. It was.
Was it Remo? Was it really?
Oh. Yeah, it was Remo with oh God, what's his name? He'll come back to me. One of the most famous drummers in the world, but I can't, his name escapes me.
Anyway,
Weckel. Was it
Weckel? Oh, I've heard of him. Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah.
Speaking of heads, let's talk a bit of code. Your eggs aren't all in one basket, which I really like the fact that you're teaching, you're recording, playing. And how the hell did you stumble into manufacturing drum heads? Well, not personally, but you know what I mean,
Yeah. It was through a good friend of mine, James Potts. He started the company. He's left the company now because he's retired from it. But he just one day, after having a problem with one of his snare drum heads and having no luck from the manufacturer, he went off and ordered some cheap heads from China online. Found a factory, started selling them, and they weren't very good. Then he found a slightly better factory, and he came up with the name Code. And then he asked me if I'd try them out because Embrace were one of his favourite bands. So I tried it out, and I thought, at this time I had no idea how heads were made, not a clue. Like a lot of drummers don't. And I tried it and thought, these sound all right. I had a deal with Remo at the time, and I have to say, they make great heads, as do Evans and Aquarian.
Yep.
But I didn't. I was never really that tied into them in terms of even knowing who worked there. I never had a relationship really, just a discount. So I said, look, why don't I get involved with the company? I just sold my shares in some bars that I used to co-own with somebody from Ossett Brewery, and I said, look, I'll put a bit of money in, but I want to develop it as a proper brand. We need to make the quality right, blah, blah, blah. Develop the ranges. So I quickly learned all about how heads were made. We went over to Music China, and I met all the manufacturers of heads in the Far East that we could. And we settled on a relationship with a great company in Taiwan, who agreed to make heads to our specifications, and work with us as a brand. So we spent the next 2 years developing the range, developing the coating, developing the double knurled grip type technology in the rim to hold the heads in place better. And I just worked on the artwork, got the boxes and everything looking great. Came up with the logo, which luckily everyone seems to love.
Yeah, it's good.
And just built it from there, and then started talking to other friends of mine that were drummers and getting them involved. And the ball just, it started, but it was a slow process because obviously there are only two main manufacturers in the world.
Yeah,
if you like, Remo and Evans, and then you've got Aquarian somewhere behind that. So everyone just went out and asked for those brands. So we've had to work very hard, but over the last few years, we're now distributed in the UK, across Europe, into Japan, going to Australia soon, going to be in the States soon, South America hopefully very soon. So it's a gradual process, and then and then we've built our reputation on the players that use our heads. So we've got some great people, like Russ Gilbrook, etc., and obviously now Nicko. Being an artist and a shareholder in the company, so it's great having him as part of the team as well.
It's excuse me. When you mentioned earlier about your APK, wanting to Nicko, isn't that like a lovely sort of turning of the circle to all of a sudden he's playing your brand, a shareholder? I mean, how perfect is that?
It's insane. Last year when we went down to was it last year or the year before? Can't remember. I went down to see him and they were playing in Barcelona.
Yeah.
To take in some heads to try, and went down there with the lovely Mel from BDC, and I got to meet him, and I just said to him, Nicko, if the 14-year-old me could see me now, he wouldn't be able to believe what's going on. It would freak him out. So yeah, it's great to have him involved. I'm going down to meet him next week to do some interviews when he's over in the UK again. But yeah, just having somebody of that stature on board opens doors for you as well. People around the world have been saying, "Oh, Nicko's playing your heads. I've never heard of you, but if he plays them, there must be something about them." And then they try them, and then
we're not talking just another drummer here, are we?
No.
You've got, as you said, you've got some great drummers on your roster, the likes of Russ. No question, remarkably talented people. But Nicko, a talent aside, is kind of right at the very top of the tree, isn't he? One of the biggest metal band, if not the biggest metal band in the world. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think if you said to people, even non-drummers, that they know about Nicko, they know because he's a larger than life character.
Oh yeah.
I think, I don't know, there aren't many better known drummers. Chad, probably.
Ulrich maybe on a par with
Lars Ulrich, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But there isn't.
Yeah, so it's it's great to have him involved.
Was that when you took the heads for him to try, was there any nerves or trepidation where you're like, oh God, I hope he likes these? Was there a lot of to-in and fro-in to tweak them and what have you?
There wasn't too much, which was brilliant. But that day when we went down there, I took the heads to show him that we developed. And he said to his drum tech, "Oh, put the snare on tonight. Put the snare head on tonight."
Right.
And then me and Mel went out and sat at the with Pooch, their front of house engineer, in the front of house area, and I knew that he'd just put a head straight on there that he'd never used before.
Right.
In front of 60,000 people at the Olympic Arena in Barcelona.
My God.
Now to say I was slightly nervous was a bit of an understatement. And we got to the end of the set, and it sounded great. And we went over to Pooch and just said, "Oh, just I don't want to take it your time, but what do you think of the snare?" And he was like, "Great, plenty of top end, cuts through, so you can't add top end, so it's got that, not as much body, but it's got that bite that Nicko needs, and he cranks it really high."
Yeah.
So I walked away, breathing and sweating.
It's obviously you tested these things. They're not, you've not taken it to chance and gone, "Oh well, just try them." Obviously they've had a beating, but it's a different kind of beating, isn't it, from Nicko? When
well, completely, and also it's a drum head
beating as well. It's not
a butt end, exactly a butt end beater.
Yeah,
yeah. It's and let's face it. With every drummer has had a head fail on them. And at times they will fail and they will break. It happens. Oh. You basically heating a piece of plastic with a big piece of wood as hard as you can. Sometimes there are problems and they fail. And I likened it to because I did a bit of band management for a while. I managed a couple of bands, and one of the bands called Anechoic, who I still dearly love, and in fact their guitarist is now one of our techs on the road for us. But watching a band that you manage is like watching somebody playing your drum heads.
Yeah, I get that.
Because if you're in a band, you control what you're doing. You've got that control. If you're just watching somebody either playing your heads or doing a performance that you can't control, I found that far more nerve-wracking. Because people said
to me, gods, as they say.
lap of the good. It's honestly playing on stage is a walk in the park compared to watching people play our heads. Whenever I go to see a band that's using our heads, I'm literally watching them going, please don't have a problem. Please don't have a problem, because it happens. You can't get around it. And I'd be a liar if I said that the heads last forever, because they don't. It's just a fact.
Not much does it? Let's be honest.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
But the name is out there, all over the place now. You see it cropping up, and you see lots of people using them, which is great. As I say, having Nicko there is not going to harm it in any shape or form, is it?
No.
And the thing I like, you don't have a stupid amount of ranges where it gets complicated, and you're going to go, well, what do I, you've got, I don't know how many ranges. There's not a huge amount, is there, Mike? I'm not wrong there, I don't think.
No, that's absolutely our ethos, Matty, that we keep the range, down to just what I think is necessary.
Yeah.
We've only got sort of 7 or 8 different ranges across, that do tom, snare, kick drum. There's a couple more ranges I'm going to add over the next 2 years. And after that, my belief is that you don't need 1,000,001 different ranges. Yeah. And also you just need to learn what you're using to create your own sound. And it's how you combine the batter and the resonance that could create the tone of the drum. We all know that you could have a £10,000 drum kit with the best drum heads in the world on it, and if you don't tune it right, it'll sound like dog shit.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to tune a kit to make anything sound good on it. And I think that's I'm very honest about drum heads as well, in the fact that I'm trying to debunk all this mysticism about them. They are plastic. And that's what they are. It's like a Coke bottle, basically. If you want to simplify it, stretched over a bearing edge. If you get the film right, and you've got a good bearing edge, and you've got the right tension, then you'll create a good sounding drum.
Yeah.
So we basically focus on getting the very basic elements right. Good quality film, good quality coating, good quality steel and aluminium in the rim, and good quality control. But I would never say, oh my God, our heads last forever. And,
you'd be foolish to do so, wouldn't you? Let's be honest.
Yeah. It's stupid to claim too much, all I know is
I'm going to put tires on my car and they're going to last forever.
Yeah. It's never going to happen. And why, and let's face it, why would you? No one would buy any more.
Well, yeah, 100%.
But no, they don't. I mean, it is. When I think about it, it's a ridiculous thing to get involved in, because I've always wanted to get involved with something to do with a drum kit, but a drum head is something that you just whack the shit out of, and you can't tell people how to play. We get a lot of problems with, we don't get a lot of problems, but when you see problems with coating coming off, a lot of the time it's because the tip of your stick's damaged.
Yeah. So
if the tip of your stick's damaged, it just acts like a chisel. It just chisels the coating off. So you've got. I think it's technique as well.
Yeah.
I found having a good technique makes things last a lot longer as well.
Well, it's the start. It's the basis of everything. A good technique, isn't it? From equipment lasting to sounding and feeling good. So have you found that since you've been involved with Code, have you got more into tuning? Obviously, because you've got your own heads to tweak, and have you got more into it?
Yeah, massively. It's something that used to scare the shit out of me. When we were doing our second album, I got so paranoid about not being able to tune drums that I used to get a friend of mine to drive down to the studio in Shropshire every weekend and tune 3 drum kits up, and then use them for recording, and then he'd come down and tune them up again. I lost my I lost my way with it for a while, but then got back into it, and now I just kind of realize it's about making it sound good. It's not about getting every single lug at exactly the right tension. It's about, getting the basics right and then tweaking it until it sounds like you want it to sound. it's as simple as that. But I do enjoy the process now. You know, I enjoy trying a new head out, and especially when we're developing new heads. I've got one on the bass drum, which is a new twin ply that we're developing, you know, it's a great buzz when you put it on, because I have the idea, and then I'll go to the manufacturer and they'll say, "Oh, we'll try it," and you don't know until it comes back.
No.
And sometimes I've been really excited, and it's come back. Like I had this idea for this bass drum head that was going to have like a semicircular, like foam behind it, because that sort of mirrored the pillow inside it type of thing, and I got the head and it looked fantastic, and I put it on and it sounded shit.
I think you've got to be honest at that point, haven't you? And just go, you know what?
I was like, oh, well, that didn't work then. But then we got another idea, which I've got now, and it sounds great. But no, I love it. You know, it's great. And I'll tell you what, one of the best things about being involved with Code is the fact that I've met so many great drummers through it.
Yeah.
And I say this to all the players when I meet them. I say, honestly, it's brilliant, because when we were a band and touring a lot, we were quite insular and didn't really meet that many people. And I certainly didn't meet that many drummers. But now the amount of people I've met, and the amount of absolutely legends like yourself, and you know, and artists, you know, that are just, but generally really nice people, has been fantastic. So you know, I'm loving it.
Well, and it's also nice that you're a recognizable face around all the shows, the trade shows. You're there, you know. You're a very amiable guy to chat to. You know, it makes a difference when you can go and have a chat with the person who's like at the helm of it all. I think it makes such a difference. Like Keith with BDC, you know, he's always up for a natter with somebody, isn't he? And it makes such a difference, I think.
Yeah, and also because we've got that. Yeah, that enthusiasm for what we do as well. Yeah. You know, we love what we're doing. You know, we've got so much invested in it that every little comment that isn't quite right, you know, really gets to you, and you want to sort it out, and you want to make sure people are happy. You know, every time I get a message where there's a slight problem, you know, I focus on that and make sure it's sorted out, because I think that's the key to it. You know, you're always going to have, and again, this is why I don't lie about it, you're always at some point going to have issues with something that you hit really hard with a piece of plastic, a piece of wood, should I say. So it's how you get around that, and how you move the brand forward, and how you make it better. I think that's the key. Yeah, the key side.
Well, I think you're winning at it. I really do, and it's great to see. It really is. You know, it's about time somebody shook up the drum head world, if you like, and I think you're doing a fine job, as you say.
Oh, great!
Other manufacturers make great drum heads, no question there.
Yeah, no question that at all.
A nice alternative is always a good thing, isn't it? You know, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope so. And our, you know, our you know, one of the hashtags is trust your ears, you know, and that's why I would say, you know, to any of the drummers, just try them, and if you like them, use them. And if you don't, then let us know why you don't like them, but then no hard feelings.
Absolutely.
It's one of those things.
Totally. Yeah. Look, Mike, I've thoroughly enjoyed. I don't know how long we've been chatting. We've been chatting for an hour. It's gone really. It feels like 20 minutes. So they're always the good ones when they go by like that. So.
Well, I can. I can talk about drums until the cows come home. It's just you know. Likewise. I started when I was 10. You know, now I'm in my 50s, and I still love them. You know, the rest of the band take the mickey out of me whenever they see me. They're like, "What are you thinking about at the moment? Is it drums? Is it drums now?"
Oh, it's me. And anybody who looks at my phone, photographs of random drum kits that aren't even mine, it's like, look at this. It's just terrible. Geekiness at a whole new level. I mean, it was Live Aid for me. That was the moment, 1985, when that was my key moment for drums, watching that gig, and then it gets in your blood, doesn't it? It really does.
It does. You know, my first gig that I ever went to was Def Leppard, on their first album tour, and I was absolutely hooked. And Paul Cook from the Pistols, you know, seeing him play. Again, that's one of the reasons I've gone. You know, a lot of people would say like a 4-piece setup is like a standard jazz setup, if you like. But for me, it's more like it's more like a Paul Cook, you know, Sex Pistols setup.
Yeah. God, it goes on and on, doesn't it? The 4-piece kit users out there. So you saw Rick Allen without trying to be funny, playing with two arms. Then not many people have seen that, in the grand scheme of things.
I did, yeah.
I know that sounds terribly disrespectful, but it's not meant like that,
Oh no, I completely. I mean, the guy, what he did back in the day when he did have his accidents was, well, just close to amazing, really, because there was no technology really at the time to do what he did. No one had done it before.
No.
And he was 21 years old, or something, 20 or 21 years old. So to come back and do what he did, it blows my mind.
Do it.
I'd still do it, yeah. I'd still do it, yeah.
I interviewed Jeff Rich, obviously former Status Quo drummer, but he went out with Def Leppard when Rick had kind of, got this stuff together, and he was playing as the main drummer, and Rick would do some stuff, and then he said, I remember him saying, he said, when Rick said, "Look, I'm ready to do it, let me do it," and he said, "Right, I'm happy to stand down," and he said, watching him from behind the stage was just incredible. Do this thing, what a moment.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Yeah, I mean, there's certain drummers I've got massive, admiration for, and as we briefly said before we started recording, John Farris being another of them, who you were lucky enough to interview.
I was.
That guy's feel. You go back to those records, those 80s records, Listen Like Thieves. It's all him, and all those sounds that he got. He created all those sounds. Just an amazing, very underrated drummer.
Well, do you know what? And I've got a little nugget for you that you might not know. You might do. I didn't know that John Farris had done a gig with Toto. How about that?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right.
And it would have been would he have filled in for Simon Phillips? But for whatever reason, he said, I spent like 24 hours cramming to do the gig. I did one gig. He was supposed to fill in for a week or something.
Yeah.
And he apparently did a great job. And he, for whatever reason, the management said, look, we don't want somebody from another big band. We want like a sideman person. We don't want, because obviously INXS were massive at the time. So he only did one gig and got pushed to the sideline, which is pretty horrible. But there we are. So yeah, he's played for Toto.
Amazing.
I can't remember how I know that, and it was, we emailed and he said, I spoke to Steve Lukather yesterday about and I can't remember how it came about, but so I found it out. So I was quite blown away by that, to tell you the truth. So
that's amazing. He's drumming on this song from Lost Boys that did with Jimmy Barnes.
Oh yes, what a soundtrack that is.
Yeah, I think again, one of my favorite bands of all time.
Yeah.
So
Well, we could go on. We should maybe do a part 2 at some point or other.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's I think people like hearing about people talking about drums, geeking out, don't they?
Hopefully.
Well, this is going to be 132, the 132nd episode, so I'm hoping somebody's liking it somewhere.
Yeah. Well, you've done some great stuff so far, so keep it up. It's
great. Only possible with people like yourself, Mike. So it's appreciated.
Yeah. Well, anytime.
Thank you very much, mate. Well, good luck. Have a great year, and good luck with the tour. When's the tour this year, then?
We've got various things. We've got a big hometown show at Kirksall Abbey at the end of July, which is a great indie lineup because it's us supported by Ocean Colour Scene, Sleeper, Ash.
Wow.
And Cud, so it's just indie-tastic. So we've got that, and then we've got a big tour at the end of the year, and then a bunch of festivals, and we're doing some other shows this year with Ocean Colour Scene as well. So it's it's going to be a good year, and then next year we're going to dive back into recording some new material. So.
Good.
Yeah, it's all good. We still, we all do other things as well, but we all, when we come together, the last tour we did, which was whenever it was last October, was probably one of the most favourite tours that I've done in my career, which is bizarre to say. I've been in Embrace 32 years now. You know what I mean? It's great to sort of think that we still love it so much.
Well, I tell you, there's a lot to be said for that. It's obviously the magic's still there, and that's great to see, isn't it?
Well, same 5 members since 1996, so that's not bad going.
Not many bands can say that.
95, yeah.
Well, Mike, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all, Matty. It's been great. Really enjoyed it.
Pleasure. And I will see you soon, no doubt, somewhere or other along the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cheers, Mike. Take care, mate.
You take care. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.